Hi there, it's Sarah from Inspirational. Welcome to the channel. Let's see what message Spirit has for us today. Five of Swords. Whoop. Let's have those. Okay. Five of Swords, the Hierophant, and the Wheel of Fortune. So the Five of Swords is a card all about tension. It's usually when we kind of get stuck in our mini-me perspective, our human perspective, which we think is who we are and who we're supposed to be. So we kind of fight vehemently for ourselves, which is kind of makes sense and it's cute. But from the bigger picture perspective, it doesn't really make any sense and it doesn't get us anywhere. It just creates conflict where we feel as if we want to win at all cost. And then we experience this kind of hurt, betrayal, sense of loss, and this inner turmoil because we're not doing the right thing, yet we feel as if we're doing the right thing. So it's difficult, and we always feel as though winning is a victory, but when we win at the expense of somebody else, then it's not a victory. We're just playing the ego's game, and it has to be a forgiveness opportunity for us. And the Hierophant is all about our spiritual path. About learning, about non-duality, and how to move away from judging and falling into the trap of the ego or the devil. And the Wheel of Fortune tells us that we're on the wheel of karma all the time, and we're learning to judge not. And whenever we do judge, then the wheel of karma comes around and bites us. So this is a very important life lesson that we need to learn, that we don't have free will. We think we have free will. We have free will to align with God, our thinking with God. And if we don't, then it feels as if we don't have free will, because our will is not free when we align with the ego or the devil, or with fragmentation and duality. And it feels frustrating to us from our human perspective, but actually it's great that God and the Spirit have created it so that whenever we try and go against oneness, that it doesn't feel good and we fail, or we feel to fail. So there's like a divine plan and a divine intelligence at play, and we should be grateful for that. So the Knight of Pentacles is all about slow moving energy, about being steadily devoted. These cards are jumping out. The Queen of Cups is very much focused on love and creativity. And with the Queen, so with the Queen of any suit, it's kind of mastery internally so for Cups it's creativity and love. I think the Queen of Cups is probably the queen that I relate to the most. I kind of think of her as the awakened empath. And I mean, I've seen lots of things bandied around online where because we often, as the feminine energy, feel very strong, we kind of martyr ourselves for other people because we think, oh, well, I'm stronger than you, I can carry your weakness. But really, the Spirit does not want us to do that. The Spirit wants us to be equal and for everybody to take responsibility for their self, which kind of makes sense. So from our Queen of Cups perspective, we learn lots of life lessons around we have to prioritize ourselves. And we can be compassionate for other people, but we have to make sure that we're compassionate with ourselves. And the Knight of Pentacles talks about this journey being kind of methodical and steady. And that we do have to learn our lessons, and it can take many, many years to overcome these patterns. And this again ties in with the Eight of Pentacles, where we have to work really hard and diligently at healing these patterns because they're very pervasive. And because we live in a culture that is patriarchal, as women, we have to take our power back. Women, our feminine energy is they're kind of masters of the inner world, masters of connection, masters of being as God wants us to be, but we've been so what's the word, socialized to disown our intuition, our own power. So there's many people on the planet, many feminine energies who are taking their power back, and this can also be, it's challenging for them, it's frightening, but it's also challenging for masculine energy in life, because they can't get away with as much as they used to get away with, and if they're in their ego, then they can feel quite triggered and want to diminish the feminine energy. But really, that's a mistake to do that. The more mature souls will accept the challenge of rising into integrity that the feminine energy calls, because the feminine energy is very aligned with God, aligned with the truth, aligned with connection and spiritual development. So if a masculine energy can kind of surrender to that higher intelligence, then they are much more empowered and they're moving into love. But yeah, this is obviously a difficult pattern for many people to break, but it's worth doing. And the male and feminine, the masculine and feminine need to stay strong in their beliefs. Oh, pardon me. The Queen of Wands is a card of, so the Queen of Wands is very focused on her purpose. She's very passionate and very driven. On here it says that she's a creative leader. She's a powerhouse, and we know that the Queen of Wands is probably the most externally focused queen, the most focused on her purpose, on her divine purpose. So you could say she carries the more masculine energy. But yeah, the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands combination is powerful. So we're very focused on love and focused on purpose. And love is our purpose. But we have to learn to love unconditionally. If we don't love unconditionally, then the universe is going to keep correcting us, because higher intelligence wants this unconditional love. And because it's so powerful, the law of love prevails over the universe, then whenever we're out of alignment, we're going to get slapped around the head, and it doesn't feel good, but it is good, because it leads us all in the right direction, and we all need it. But yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, this spiritual path. It's tough. The Empress and the Devil and the Emperor. So the Empress, yeah, the Empress is the example of feminine energy, of grace and abundance. The Empress is kind of a culmination of the Queen of all of the suits. So the Empress is very empowered. And I think it's interesting, the Devil and the Emperor card have both come out. So the Empress and the Emperor is all about managing the feminine and masculine energies within us and facing our shadows. And it can feel like a baptism by fire. And whenever we fall back into the, I'm a woman and men are bad, or vice versa, I'm a man and women are bad, then we're just playing out patterns that the devil essentially wants us to play out, where we project the blame onto the other sex, and we kind of get stuck in that pattern. We never resolve it, whereas the Spirit wants us to take our projections back and pull them within and look at ourselves, and it's helpful for us to do that. And it's great that the Justice card came out, because it kind of shows us that because of the law of love, whenever we make a mistake or do things in a loving way or an unloving way, we're going to receive divine justice for whatever we do. And we know that if we're not unconditionally loving, if we're not aligned with God, then we're going to get our ass kicked, essentially. And that's the way the universe works. That's the way we learn to balance, and it maybe doesn't seem fair from our human perspective, but the spirit sees this from a much more expanded and zoomed out perspective. So yeah, the Chariot, and the Chariot card is about making progress and moving forward quickly. And if we're prepared to face our shadows, prepared to face that and move beyond the ego's perspective, and look at integrating the masculine, feminine, the darkness and the light within us, then we can move forward in a powerful way. And I know Ken Wapnick said, if you want to make progress, then you've got to stay in the zone where you feel uncomfortable. And I think you just kind of get more emboldened and brave when you step into that power and you go through it and you just think, actually, I can tolerate the pain and the discomfort. And if I can do that, then I can just burn through the shadow at a rate of knots. And we want to do that. I think earlier on in my journey, I was afraid of that. But as I've got more confident and more used to the process and more understanding that experiencing painful feelings is actually burning away the shadow, it's not something that I need to feel bad about or ashamed about, then we really can make spiritual progress. So I think we should go for it. Anyway, that was a powerful reading and I loved it. I love you all. Bye.